Let me tell you something before we take another step. In the next 60 minutes, something inside you is going to crack open. Not because I have a magic formula, but because you're about to see yourself, your real self, with a clarity most people spend their entire lives running from. You'll discover exactly why your words get trapped in your throat, why your voice betrays you when it matters most, and how to burn all of that down and rebuild, starting right now. Here's the truth that might shatter everything you assumed. The people who walk into rooms and shift the air, the ones who hold attention without demanding it, who speak and somehow make everyone feel the room got brighter, they were not born that way. Not one of them, every last one learned. They fell apart, got back up, fell apart again, and kept going. The difference between them and everyone else isn't talent, it's a roadmap, and today you're getting that roadmap. Most of us sleepwalk through life running on maybe 10% of our true communication potential. We choke in job interviews. We rehearse conversations for hours, only to open our mouths and watch every word dissolve. We sit in a room and hear someone else say the exact thing we were thinking with the exact precision we couldn't find, and wonder why that couldn't have been us. Sound familiar? Of course it does, because it used to be me too. But communication is not a birthright handed to the privileged few. It is a skill, raw, learnable, trainable, like cooking, like music, like anything that demands you show up and do the work. By the time we finish, you'll understand the invisible chemistry flooding your brain under pressure. You'll know how to silence the voice that's been telling you for years that you're not smart enough, not polished enough, not worthy enough to be heard. You'll have real tools for commanding your voice, reading any room, surviving conversations that terrify you, and connecting with virtually anyone on earth. This is not theory. This is your transformation. Take a breath, settle in. Let's begin. Chapter 1. What's really happening inside your brain when you speak? Let me paint you a picture you've lived before. You're standing in front of people. Your palms are slick. Your mind, razor sharp 5 minutes ago, has gone completely blank. You say something, it tumbles out tangled and rushed. And for the rest of the day, you replay every stumble, cringe by cringe. Here's what almost no one understands about that moment. It has nothing to do with your intelligence. It has everything to do with your brain chemistry. When your mind perceives danger, and make no mistake, your nervous system treats a conference room the same as a predator on a hiking trail. It detonates. Cortisol, adrenaline, these hormones are masterpieces for surviving a physical attack, for constructing a coherent sentence in front of watching eyes. They are catastrophic. Your working memory collapses. Imagine preparing a 5-course meal on a cutting board the size of a postcard. That's your brain under fear. But before you resign yourself, hear this. Confident speakers feel that exact same chemical surge. Their hearts slam too. Their hands go clammy too. The gap between them and everyone else isn't the absence of fear. It's what they do with it. Think of surfing. The wave comes whether you want it or not. A beginner panics. A skilled surfer thinks, here we go. Same wave, completely different outcome. That difference lies entirely in interpretation, and interpretation is something you can learn. Your brain processes communication on 3 levels. First, reactive processing, pure autopilot, no filter, no strategy. Fine for casual talk, disastrous for anything that matters. Second, intentional processing. You slow down, think before speaking, edit in real time. Third, strategic processing, where masters operate. Here, you're simultaneously tracking your message, your audience's reaction, and the direction you want things to move. You're not just speaking, you're conducting. Your brain also contains a built-in filter, the reticular activating system, that functions like a personal algorithm. If you've told yourself for years that you're a terrible speaker, it surfaces every fumble, every awkward silence. But when you begin believing you're becoming a powerful communicator, the entire feed changes. Suddenly, you notice when you explained something brilliantly, when you made a point that landed. Same brain, different data, different life. When you speak, the listener's mirror neurons fire as if they were speaking your words themselves. Your emotional state is physically contagious. Speak with warmth and certainty, and people feel it in their own bodies. Project confusion and doubt, and it spreads like a cold through an office. This is why preparation matters, not memorizing lines, but knowing your material so deeply, your brain stops scrambling to recall and pours everything into connection. That single shift changes everything. There's one more concept worth carrying into everything that follows: cognitive load theory. Your brain has a finite amount of processing power at any given moment. Think of a phone with 20 apps running in the background. Everything slows, the battery drains fast. When you're simultaneously trying to remember what to say, figure out how to say it, monitor whether you're making sense, and read the room for reactions, your mental battery is at 1%. Skilled communicators solve this by automating certain parts of their delivery. They develop go-to transition phrases. They build mental frameworks for organizing thoughts quickly under fire. All of this frees up precious resources for the things that truly matter: connecting with people, reading the room, and adjusting in real time. Understanding these principles isn't just fascinating science. It is the foundation everything else is built on. Chapter 2: Taming the Voice Inside Your Head. Long before you say a single word out loud, a conversation is already raging. The one between you and yourself, that relentless inner monologue that never takes a day off. And for most people, that voice is not a kind roommate. It is a brutal, sleepless critic. Picture two people about to walk through the same interview door. The first person's voice says, "They're going to see right through me. I'll freeze. Everyone will know I don't belong here." The second person's voice says, "I've prepared hard. I have real experience to offer. Let's show them what I bring." Same interview, same panel, completely different internal universe. And those different universes create different external realities, because your inner dialogue doesn't just color how you feel. It sculpts your posture, your eye contact, your vocal tone, the specific words your brain reaches for. The thought creates the feeling shapes the body shapes the delivery The delivery shapes the outcome. The outcome feeds the original thought. If you want to transform what comes out of your mouth, you must first transform what's happening between your ears. I know how that inner voice developed its script. A teacher who made you feel small when you gave a wrong answer. A parent whose corrections felt more like verdicts. Classmates whose laughter carved itself into your memory like initials in wet concrete. Those experiences didn't just hurt. They built neural highways in your brain that fire automatically every time you're about to speak in a high-stakes situation. But your brain is not concrete. It's more like a river, and rivers can always be redirected. Neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to forge new pathways, doesn't expire. Every conscious choice to think differently digs a new channel. Every repetition deepens it. Elite communicators use deliberate mental rehearsal before moments that matter. They close their eyes and vividly see themselves speaking clearly, connecting with people, feeling steady and alive with authority. This isn't daydreaming, it's applied neuroscience. Vivid, imagined practice produces real neurological change. Athletes have known this for decades. When you vividly imagine yourself performing at your peak, your brain builds neural pathways that closely mirror actual experience. Your brain, in many ways, treats a vivid mental rehearsal like a real event that already happened successfully. Most communication anxiety comes down to three fears: fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. These turn every conversation into an audition with only two outcomes: pass or fail. Confident communicators escape this by adopting a contribution mindset. They don't walk in hoping for approval. They walk in asking what they can add. They trust that their perspective has weight. Here's a technique backed by solid research. When nerves ambush you, instead of saying "I'm so nervous," say "I'm excited." Anxiety and excitement are physiologically identical. Same heart rate, same alertness, same energy surge. The only difference is the label. Swap the label, and you redirect how that energy moves through everything you do. And remember, this perfect speakers do not exist. The most commanding communicator you've ever witnessed has stumbled, lost their place, said things that came out completely sideways. The difference is they treat those moments like hiccups, not catastrophes. When you stop chasing flawlessness and start chasing genuine connection, your communication transforms almost overnight. Chapter 3. Your body is always talking. You could carry the most luminous idea anyone has ever heard. Every word perfectly arranged. But if your body is broadcasting a different signal, nobody will trust your words. They will trust your body every time. Your words are the screenplay. Your body is the actor performing it. And when the performance contradicts the script, the audience believes the performance. You can say, "I'm thrilled about this opportunity," while your arms are locked across your chest and your eyes are searching the floor for an exit. And every person in the room will feel contradiction, even if they can't name it. Start at the foundation. Posture, not soldier. At attention posture. Grounded, open, relaxed presence. When you sit or stand with shoulders naturally rolled back, chest gently open, spine comfortably tall, you aren't just performing confidence. You're triggering it inside yourself. Research shows that open, expansive physical stances alter your hormonal balance within minutes. Confidence hormones rise, stress hormones fall. Your body is chemically reshaping your inner landscape based on how you arrange yourself in space. And the reverse is equally true. When you fold inward, hunch, and shrink your presence to the size of an apology, you send a message directly to your nervous system: be invisible. Now, the most powerful nonverbal tool you have, your eyes. Eye contact is where human connection actually lives. When you hold someone's gaze while speaking, you say without words, "I'm here, I mean this, I'm not hiding." In one-on-one conversation, aim for roughly 70% eye contact while listening, about 50% while speaking. In groups, commit fully to one person for a complete thought, 3 to 5 seconds, then shift to someone across the room. This creates intimacy even inside a crowd. Your face must match the story. If you share something exciting while wearing the expression of someone reading a parking ticket, they'll believe the face. Skilled communicators let their expressions become emotional punctuation, underlining key moments, reflecting genuine feeling, drawing people into the reality of the message. Gestures are either powerful allies or dead giveaways. When nerves take hold, your body hunts for outlets. A pen clicked obsessively, repeated adjustments, small repetitive movements that broadcast anxiety to everyone watching. Confident speakers gesture with intention, open hands for big concepts, tightened focus for precise detail, a deliberate anchor movement for critical moments. And always, the scale of your gestures matches the setting. An intimate coffee conversation calls for subtle movements. A conference stage demands gestures expansive enough to reach the back row. Your voice carries emotional data that can completely override your words. Pace, volume, tone, and pause are instruments most people never learn to play consciously. Speaking too fast leaks nervousness. Speaking too slowly sounds uncertain. Slow down for complexity. Build pace for energy. And weaponize pauses. A pause before a key point builds anticipation, the way silence before an orchestra's first note makes everything hit harder. A pause after lets it settle and breathe. Silence isn't emptiness, it is emphasis. Before any conversation that matters, take 3 slow, deep breaths from your belly. This single practice will transform your vocal presence more than almost anything else in this entire guide. Chapter 4. The words you choose are building worlds. Every word you speak doesn't just describe reality. It shapes what happens next. Each word carries 2 layers, the surface meaning and the invisible layer, all the emotions, memories, and associations that word ignites in the listener. Quick experiment. Someone tells you, "We have a problem with the project." Feel that tightening in your chest. Now they say, "We've got a challenge with the project." Feel the difference. Challenge invites your brain to think about overcoming, solving, rising. Problem invites it to think about blame, failure, fallout. Same situation, one word changed, entirely different emotional terrain. Most people operate with a working vocabulary of 3,000 to 5,000 words. Yet the average educated adult recognizes 20 to 35,000. You're carrying a vast box of colored pencils and only reaching for the same 6. All those other colors represent precision, nuance, and emotional textures that could make your ideas land with 10 times the impact. Before you rush to memorize obscure words from a thesaurus, that approach backfires. Using words that don't fit naturally in your voice doesn't make you sound articulate. It makes you sound like someone desperately performing. The goal is having enough options that you can always find the exact word for the exact moment. Word choice becomes decisive in delicate moments. You disagree with someone in a meeting. You could say, "You're wrong about this." Technically correct, but you slammed a door. Their defenses rise. The conversation becomes a contest. Instead, "I've arrived at a different conclusion, and I'd love to walk you through my thinking." Same disagreement. The door stays wide open, intelligence respected, dialogue invited instead of combat. Precision also means cutting words that quietly drain your power. Fillers like "you know," sort of don't just make you sound uncertain. They train your mind toward vague thinking. Hear the difference? I think maybe we should possibly look into this approach at some point. Versus, I recommend we implement this by next Friday. Same person. Same idea. One carries weight, one dissolves. Metaphors are among the most potent tools any communicator possesses. Instead of our departments aren't coordinating. Try. Right now, our departments are like musicians in separate practice rooms, each playing beautifully alone, but producing noise together because nobody's reading from the same sheet music. That metaphor doesn't just describe the problem, it contains the solution. We don't need better individual musicians. We need a shared score and someone keeping time. Building your vocabulary is a living practice, not a weekend project. Read material that reaches beyond your comfort zone. When a word resonates, don't just note its definition, study how it was used, what effect it created. Try deploying it in conversation that same day. Over time, words migrate from the vocabulary you recognize into the vocabulary you command. Power words transform, breakthrough, essential, remarkable, carry more emotional charge than their neutral cousins. Change, improvement, important, good. But power words are like hot sauce. A strategic drop elevates everything. Too much ruins the whole dish. Short sentences punch. They command attention. Longer sentences allow you to walk your listener through nuance, building understanding step by step. The masters dance between both, short for impact, long for depth, creating a rhythm that keeps people engaged without exhausting them. Chapter 5. Your voice is an instrument. Learn to play it. Close your eyes and think about a voice that pulls you in completely. A podcast host who makes you feel like they're sitting beside you. A speaker whose words seem to move physically through the air. What is it about that voice? It isn't magic, it's mastery, and it is something you can develop. Your voice is an instrument as real and trainable as a guitar. Most people use only a fraction of what it can do because nobody ever taught them to think about it consciously. Everything begins with breath, not the shallow chest breathing most of us default to. That pattern where shoulders heave with every inhale. That kind of breathing is adequate at a desk. For a voice that needs to fill space or carry emotional weight, it's inadequate. It produces a thin, strained quality and runs out of air at the worst possible moments, right through the middle of the sentence that matters most. Diaphragmatic breathing, breath originating deep in the belly, gives your voice a steady, powerful foundation. Your words emerge fuller, steadier, richer. Practice this. Place one hand on your chest, one on your stomach. Breathe in slowly. The stomach hand should move outward. The chest hand barely moves. This takes patient repetition because most adults have built shallow habits over decades that feel entirely normal, even as they quietly throttle vocal potential every day. Resonance gives a voice warmth and depth. Sound starts at your vocal cords, but where it travels determines its quality. A guitar string vibrating alone makes a thin, tiny sound. The same string inside the instrument produces something full and warm. Your body works identically when sound resonates through your chest, throat, and facial chambers. It gains presence and life. To feel this, hum with lips closed. Notice the vibrations buzzing in your chest and cheekbones. Now open your mouth and let that hum carry into spoken words, bringing that warmth with it. Pitch variation is what keeps people listening. When someone speaks on a single note for minutes at a stretch, your brain literally begins tuning them out. Lower your pitch for authority and finality. Raise it slightly when introducing something new. Avoid uptalk, that habit of ending every statement with a rising inflection that quietly, steadily erodes your credibility. Now, the thing most speakers fear but great ones weaponize, the pause. Many people rush through words as though silence were a predator. But pauses are not the absence of communication. They are communication. A pause before an important point builds anticipation. A pause after gives your audience time to absorb what you just gave them. A pause when you've lost your thread isn't weakness, it's composure. Vocal warm-ups before important moments produce genuine results. Athletes stretch, musicians tune. Your voice deserves the same preparation. A few minutes of humming, lip trills, and tongue twisters can move your voice from cold and tight to warm and fluid in the time it takes to walk to a meeting. Chapter 6. Listening is your secret superpower. I know this feels counterintuitive in a guide about speaking, but the single most powerful thing you can do to become a better speaker is to become a vastly better listener. Not the polite, nodding kind where you're secretly composing your next sentence. Real listening, the kind that shifts the energy in a room. When you listen with complete, genuine presence, you collect intelligence that transforms everything you say next. You discover what this person truly cares about beneath the surface. You detect emotions they aren't naming directly. You understand the real question hiding behind the presented one. And when you finally speak, armed with all of that, your words land with a precision that feels almost magnetic. Real listening is not passive. It's one of the most demanding things a human can do. You're simultaneously processing the literal words being spoken, the emotional current running beneath them, the assumptions shaping the speaker's perspective, and the unspoken needs driving their communication. Most people catch only the first layer. The biggest obstacle to genuine listening is your own internal commentary. While someone is talking, most people are composing their response, evaluating whether they agree, sharpening their counter-argument. That internal chatter is like trying to follow a conversation in a loud, crowded restaurant. The other person is speaking, but you're mostly hearing yourself. True listening means catching yourself drafting a reply and gently returning your full attention to the speaker. Again and again, reflection is one of the most underrated listening tools. Before offering your view, briefly mirror back what you've understood, not their exact words, but the substance and emotion behind them. If someone says, "I'm exhausted from these constant deadline changes. It feels like nothing I do matters," you might respond, "It sounds like the constant shifts are making it hard to feel like your work has real impact, and that's genuinely draining." That tells them, "I didn't just hear your words. I heard you," and that changes everything. The questions you ask reveal the quality of your listening. Closed questions shut conversations down. Leading questions are transparent and patronizing. The questions that transform conversations are open, genuinely curious, and designed to help the other person think more deeply. Instead of "Don't you think we should try something different?" try, "What factors feel most important to you as we think through where to go from here?" These questions honor the other person's intelligence. They invite the kind of thoughtful exchange that leads to genuinely better outcomes for everyone. Your body communicates while you listen too. Leaning slightly forward signals engagement. Open posture broadcasts receptiveness. Appropriate eye contact shows you're present, matching your facial expression to the emotional tone of what's being shared demonstrates empathy at a level words rarely reach. Learn to tolerate silence. When someone finishes a thought, resist the reflex to immediately fill the space. Give them a beat. Often the most important thing a person has to say comes in the second wave, after the first pause, when they feel safe enough to go deeper. Rushing to fill every silence robs people of the space they need to share what truly matters. Chapter 7. Navigating the conversations everyone avoids. Let's talk about the conversations that haunt you, the ones you've been rehearsing in the shower at midnight. The colleague who keeps claiming credit for your work, the partner conversation about something quietly corroding the ground between you, the feedback someone desperately needs and absolutely won't want to hear. Difficult conversations are the ones most people handle so badly they create larger problems than the ones they were trying to solve. They either avoid them entirely, letting small wounds fester into relationship-ending infections, or charge in loaded with emotional heat that detonates everything before anything useful can happen. Both paths leave wreckage. The difficulty almost never lives in the topic itself. It lives in the emotions wrapped around it. When conversations touch identity, ego, or real consequences, the primitive brain sounds the alarm. Rational thinking gets hijacked, and suddenly two intelligent adults are behaving like cornered animals instead of collaborating human beings. Your job is twofold. Manage your own emotional state and create conditions where the other person can stay grounded enough to actually hear you. Neither happens by accident. Most people prepare for difficult conversations the wrong way. They build their case, rehearse arguments, anticipate objections, prepare counterattacks. This is preparing for war, and it guarantees the interaction will feel like a battle. Prepare differently. Get crystal clear on what you actually want from this conversation. Not what you want to say, what outcome you're genuinely hoping for. When you know your true goal, every word can serve it rather than just releasing built-up frustration. Then genuinely try to see the situation from their position, not to agree, to understand why their view feels reasonable to them. What pressures are they carrying? What fears might be driving their behavior? When you walk in with genuine curiosity about the other person's experience, your entire energy shifts from adversarial to collaborative, and people feel that before you say a word. Language can pour water on a fire or throw gasoline on it. Statements beginning with "you always" or "you never" trigger immediate defensive shutdown. They feel like character assassinations. Instead, describe your experience without making claims about their intentions. There's a world of difference between "you don't respect my time" and "I feel frustrated when meeting times change without a heads up because it makes planning my day nearly impossible." The first is an attack. The second is honesty with the door left open. If emotions climb past productive territory, press pause. This conversation matters deeply to me, and I want to give it everything it deserves. Can we pick this up tomorrow? That isn't avoidance. That's wisdom. And remember, the goal of most difficult conversations shouldn't be winning. It should be understanding. Even when you can't agree, you can reach a place of mutual respect where both people feel heard and the relationship remains intact. Chapter 8. The Art of Making People Feel Like They Matter. Think about the most magnetic person you've ever encountered. Not the loudest, not the most conventionally impressive. The one who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. The one you walked away from thinking, "I really liked that person," without quite being able to say why. That quality people call charisma is not a mystical gift. It is a specific set of behaviors. And every one of them flows from one core act: making other people feel genuinely seen, valued, and important. In a world where most people are half present while scrolling notifications, where conversations have been reduced to transactions, the simple act of giving another human being your complete, undivided attention has become extraordinarily rare, and rare things are valuable. When someone feels you are fully with them, not drifting toward your to-do list, not glancing at your phone, they experience something most people go entire years without receiving. And they remember you for it. Developing presence starts with training your attention like the muscle it is. During conversations, your mind will wander. That's human. The practice isn't about never drifting. It's about noticing the drift and gently, without judgment, returning back to this person, their words, their eyes, the energy they're bringing into this moment. Charismatic communicators ask questions that go below the surface. Most social conversation runs on autopilot. "How was your weekend?" "Fine." "Yours?" These exchanges are like passing someone on a sidewalk. You acknowledge each other, but nobody stops walking. Charismatic people stop walking. They ask questions that invite real answers. What was the highlight of your weekend? What project are you most energized about right now? These questions signal genuine curiosity and give people permission to share something that actually matters. Validation is one of the most profoundly underestimated tools in human communication. When you acknowledge someone's emotional experience as real and legitimate without rushing to fix it, judge it, or redirect it, you offer something most people almost never receive. That makes complete sense. I'd feel the same way. These words don't mean you agree with everything. They mean you're taking this person seriously, and being taken seriously is something people are starving for. Stories are the currency of charismatic connection, not stories designed to impress, but stories designed to relate. When you share a moment when you struggled, a mistake you made and grew from, you reveal vulnerability others can genuinely connect with. Nobody bonds over perfection. People bond over shared humanity. Specific appreciation is a charisma multiplier that costs nothing. Generic praise barely registers, but specific, observed recognition lands with real impact. The way you acknowledge their frustration before redirecting to the solution. I think that's exactly what turned the whole conversation around. That tells someone you were watching closely enough to see the craft in what they did. That makes people feel genuinely, lastingly valued. Energy management is something charismatic people understand intuitively. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. If you're running on fumes, stretched past your limit, emotionally depleted, you simply don't have the bandwidth to be fully present for other people. This means taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It is the prerequisite for meaningful connection. Knowing when you need to restore yourself so you can show up fully is not weakness, it's wisdom. Humor, wielded with care, is one of the most powerful human bonding tools in existence. Laughter dissolves tension, creates shared positive experiences, and builds memories that strengthen relationships. But charismatic humor is never built on tearing someone down. It finds the absurdity in shared experience. It's self-aware, observational, and always calibrated to the moment and the people in it. Ultimately, charisma isn't a performance. It's an orientation, the daily decision to move through the world genuinely interested in the people you encounter. When that interest is sincere, everything else flows naturally from it. Chapter 9: Ethical Influence and the Art of Changing Minds. Let's be clear about something that matters enormously. Persuasion and manipulation are not the same thing. Manipulation gets what you want at someone else's expense. Real persuasion helps someone see possibilities and perspectives they haven't considered, then fully respects their right to decide. When you persuade ethically, you aren't tricking anyone. You're serving them. That's not deception. That's leadership. The most effective persuasion never begins with your idea. It begins with deep understanding of the other person's world. What are they trying to achieve? What keeps them awake at night? what would success genuinely look like for them. When you invest real time in understanding someone's priorities before presenting your case, you earn something no technique can manufacture: trust. Reciprocity is woven into our deepest social instincts. When someone genuinely helps us, we feel a natural pull to help in return. Share valuable information without expecting immediate return. Make introductions that serve other people's goals. Offer your expertise when someone is struggling. When people consistently associate you with generous behavior and positive outcomes, they become naturally more receptive, not because you've manipulated them, but because you've earned their attention through real value. Social proof speaks to something ancient in human psychology. When we face uncertainty, we look to see what people similar to us have done. This is why relevant stories from real peers are infinitely more persuasive than abstract arguments. When you can show how someone facing the same challenges found genuine value in what you're proposing, you dramatically reduce the uncertainty that prevents action. But the proof must be real. Fabricated examples don't just fail, they actively destroy credibility. Helping people see the full picture is one of the most ethical and powerful persuasion tools available. Most people make decisions based on incomplete comparisons. They see the cost of action, but not the cost of inaction. They see the risk of change, but not the risk of standing still. When you gently help someone see both sides of the equation, you empower them to make truly informed decisions rather than decisions driven by fear or inertia. The most sustainable influence makes people feel like co-creators rather than recipients. When you involve others in shaping solutions, ask for their input, incorporate their feedback, and give them ownership of the outcome, something powerful shifts. They stop seeing your proposal as something being done to them and start seeing it as something they helped build. People fight against ideas imposed on them. They champion ideas they helped create. Timing matters enormously here too. People are most open to new perspectives when they are dissatisfied with current results or moving through transitions that naturally loosen old patterns. Sometimes the most persuasive thing you can do is wait, recognize when the moment isn't right, and have the patience to stay ready for when it is. True influence isn't about getting people to do what you want. It's about expanding what they believe is possible and trusting them to make better choices with that wider view. Chapter 10: Turning Pressure into Rocket Fuel. Let me tell you something that might permanently change how you experience nervousness. That knot in your stomach before a big presentation, that heart slamming before an interview, those sensations are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are signs that something is right. Your body is mobilizing to perform at its absolute peak. The question is whether you let that energy ignite you or consume you. Most people interpret pressure as a threat signal. Their mind goes, "I'm nervous, something bad is about to happen." From that single interpretation, a cascade follows. Muscles lock, breathing shallows, thinking narrows to a pinhole focused entirely on what could go wrong. And that relentless focus on potential failure becomes the precise mechanism creating the stumbles they were trying to avoid. A self-fulfilling prophecy built on a misunderstanding of what's actually happening in their own body. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Anxiety and excitement are physiologically identical. Same elevated heart rate, same heightened alertness, same surge of energy. The only difference is the story your brain tells about those sensations. One story says danger, the other says opportunity, and you get to choose every single time which story you run with. This is backed by real research. When people are taught to reinterpret their stress response as helpful rather than threatening, their performance measurably improves. Their thinking stays flexible. Their body channels energy toward capability instead of shutdown. Same chemistry. Different interpretation, dramatically different outcome. The fastest route out of survival mode runs through your breathing. Exhaling slowly activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the manual override for your body's alarm system. Try this before any high-pressure moment. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Repeat 4 times. Within 90 seconds, you'll feel a measurable shift from jangling anxiety to grounded, clear-headed alertness. No one watching can see a thing. Prepare deeply, not rigidly. The trap most people fall into, memorizing scripts word for word. This feels safe, but is a disaster, because it rests your entire performance on perfect recall, and perfect recall is precisely the first thing stress destroys. Instead, prepare by understanding your material so thoroughly you could explain it 10 different ways. Know your key points cold, but practice expressing them with different words and angles every time you rehearse. If your mind goes blank, you haven't lost your script. You just find another path to the same destination. That flexibility is what creates genuine, unshakable confidence. Physical preparation matters more than most people realize. Your body and mind aren't separate systems. They are one interconnected organism, and what happens in one reverberates through the other. Regular exercise lowers your baseline anxiety, meaning you start from a calmer place before pressure even enters the picture. Adequate sleep ensures your cognitive resources are fully loaded when you need them most. On the day of something that matters, limit caffeine, which amplifies every anxiety symptom your body produces, and arrive early enough to inhabit the space and settle in before the stakes climb. The most transformative shift: redirect your focus from yourself to the people you're serving. When you're consumed by how you look and whether you'll stumble, you create crushing internal pressure. But when you ask yourself how you can help the people in front of you right now, your nervous energy becomes purposeful energy. Your self-consciousness dissolves into genuine engagement, and in that state, paradoxically, you perform at your absolute best. Because you've stopped getting in your own way, pressure is not your enemy. It is proof that you're operating in territory that matters. The butterflies don't need to disappear. They just need to learn to fly in formation. Chapter 11, Owning the Stage, whether it seats 5 or 500. Public speaking is where everything converges. Every piece of work on mindset, body language, vocal command, listening, and emotional intelligence, it all meets here. And what makes it both terrifying and electrifying is this: public speaking amplifies everything. Your strengths burn brighter. Your weaknesses become visible in high definition. But let's reframe something first. Public speaking isn't a rarefied category reserved for stages and auditoriums. Every time you share an idea in a meeting, explain something to a small group, or present your work, you're doing public speaking. Master the fundamentals, and whether your audience is 5 people around a table or 500 in an auditorium, the setting becomes irrelevant. The single biggest mistake people make is turning it into a performance about themselves. They obsess over perception, catastrophize stumbles, focus on their own nervousness. All that self-focused energy erects an invisible wall between them and the people they came to reach. Great speakers flip this entirely. They make it about the audience. Every decision serves one question: how do I create the most genuine value for the people in front of me? Before you craft a single slide, understand your audience deeply. What do they already know? What gaps exist? What problems are they trying to solve? What would make this time genuinely worthwhile for them? When you can honestly answer those questions, you stop guessing at what to include and start building something that feels tailored, relevant, and worth their attention. Structure your presentation as a journey. Open with something that immediately earns attention and answers the unspoken question alive in every audience member: why should I care? Then preview where you're taking them. Develop your main points with evidence, stories, and examples that transform abstract concepts into felt experiences. Close with conviction, leaving people knowing exactly what to do, think, or feel next. Skip the weak openers everyone defaults to. Good morning, my name is, and today I'll be talking about. These phrases register as background noise before you've said anything meaningful. Open instead with a question that makes the room lean forward, a statistic that detonates a comfortable assumption, or a story that pulls people into a specific sensory moment. Limit yourself to 3 to 5 main points. This isn't arbitrary. It's how human brains actually retain information. Trying to cover 12 ideas ensures nobody absorbs any of them. Developing 3 ideas with depth means your audience walks away genuinely remembering and capable of acting on what you shared. Stories are the most powerful weapon in any speaker's arsenal. Data informs the mind, stories move the heart. And the heart is where decisions actually happen. Your slides should support your voice, not replace it. The moment you put paragraphs on a screen and read them aloud, you've made yourself redundant. Use visuals that amplify what you're saying. Make people want to look at you for the explanation, not stare at the screen for a transcript. End with the same intentionality you brought to your opening. Don't trail off into "so, yeah, that's pretty much it." End with conviction. End with energy. End in a way that makes people want to stand up and do something with what they just received. Chapter 12. The emotional intelligence behind every great conversation. You could master every technique in this guide, every vocal exercise, every body language principle, every persuasion strategy. and still fall completely flat if you're missing the one invisible ingredient that makes everything else work: emotional intelligence. It is the difference between someone who speaks skillfully and someone who speaks in a way that genuinely moves people. Emotional intelligence in communication is four things working together: self-awareness, recognizing your own emotional patterns; self-management, regulating those emotions instead of being hijacked by them; social awareness, reading what others are genuinely feeling; relationship management, navigating emotional dynamics to create better outcomes for everyone. Self-awareness is where it all begins. You cannot manage what you cannot see. Most people move through life on emotional autopilot, reacting based on programs installed years ago without ever examining whether those programs still serve them. Developing self-awareness means paying attention to your internal weather. What situations make you feel expansive? What triggers defensiveness? What topics ignite heat you struggle to contain? Your emotional state doesn't stay inside you. It leaks into everything you communicate. When you're stressed, your voice tightens and your body language closes. When you're centered, your delivery is natural, and people instinctively feel safe around you. Self-management is acknowledging your feelings while consciously deciding how to express them. This is not suppression. Stuffing feelings down is like holding a beach ball underwater. It costs enormous energy, and eventually the ball explodes upward, usually at the worst possible moment. Real self-management means feeling the anger and frustration fully, without letting those feelings drive your behavior on autopilot. The pause is your most powerful tool here. That single breath between feeling and response is where your entire skill set either activates or collapses. Social awareness means reading the emotional atmosphere of a room. People broadcast their feelings constantly through tone, expression, posture, the words they emphasize, and the ones they carefully avoid. Watch for changes in someone's energy. Notice when body language opens or closes. Listen for incongruence between what someone says and what their body communicates. Someone might say everything's fine, while their jaw is locked and their arms are folded tight. Empathy is the bridge between awareness and connection. Genuine empathy means more than intellectually understanding someone's situation. It means allowing yourself to feel something of what they are feeling. That resonance transforms your response from technically correct to profoundly meaningful. People feel the difference the moment you open your mouth. Emotions move between people like weather. Walk into a room where someone is radiating anxiety, and you'll start feeling restless yourself. Spend time with someone projecting calm confidence, and your own shoulders relax. This means you bear real responsibility for the emotional climate you create. When you stay centered during tense moments, you help others find their center. When you bring warmth, warmth spreads. Building emotional intelligence is a lifelong practice that deepens with every year you stay committed to it. The goal isn't perfection, it's growth, and every increment of growth in emotional intelligence multiplies the power of every other communication skill you carry. Chapter 13. This is your moment. Everything you've just absorbed, every technique, every principle, every insight, none of it matters if it stays on this page. Knowledge that doesn't become action is just entertainment, and you didn't come here to be entertained. You came because something deep in you knows you have more to say, more to give, more to become. Maybe you've spent years feeling like your voice doesn't belong in the conversation. Maybe you've watched opportunities slip through your fingers because the right words wouldn't come at the right moment. Maybe you've left rooms replaying what you should have said, if only your mind hadn't gone blank and your heart hadn't betrayed you. I see you, and I want to tell you something I wish someone had looked me in the eyes and said years ago. Your voice already matters. It mattered before you read a single word of this. It mattered when you were stumbling. It mattered when you went silent. It mattered every single time you thought nobody was listening. The only thing changing now is that you're learning to let it out. There is a version of you that has been waiting patiently behind all the fear, all the self-doubt, all the accumulated memories of moments that went sideways. That version doesn't need to become someone else. They just need permission to show up, and that permission doesn't come from a book or a technique. It comes from you, from the decision you make right now that your ideas deserve to be heard, that your perspective carries real weight, that the world needs what you carry inside you. I won't pretend the road ahead is always smooth. There will be moments when your voice shakes, when the old stories creep back in and whisper that you're not ready, not polished enough, not enough. There will be conversations that don't land the way you intended, presentations where you stumble, silences that stretch too long. That is not failure, that is the path. Every person you've ever looked at and thought, I wish I could communicate like that. They walked this exact same road. They just kept walking. So here is what I'm asking. Start small. Start today, not next week, not when you feel ready. Because readiness doesn't arrive before action. It arrives through action. Speak up in one conversation where you normally stay quiet. Share one thought you'd usually keep to yourself. Ask one question you've been holding back for too long. And when you do, notice the quiet, unmistakable flame of courage that ignites when you choose to be heard instead of choosing to hide. You don't need to be perfect. You never did. You only need to be willing to show up with an open heart and a voice that means what it says. Willing to care more about connection than flawlessness. Willing to believe, even on the days it feels impossible, that what you have to say genuinely matters. Because it does. It always did. Your voice is the bridge between your inner world and every human being you will ever encounter. It is how you'll reach a friend who is breaking apart, how you'll inspire a team that has completely lost its way, how you'll tell someone you love them in words they'll carry with them forever, how you'll stand up for what's right when silence would be so much easier. This is bigger than communication skills. This is about becoming the fullest, most alive version of who you already are. And that journey begins the moment you decide to open your mouth and trust, completely, bravely, wholeheartedly trust, that what comes out is enough. You are enough. Your voice is enough. The world has been waiting for it. Now go use it.